My guest on Hard Talk is the president of Rwanda, Paul Kagame. He's here to urge Western leaders not to scale back on support for Africa during the current global economic crisis. But his case is not helped by widespread Western unease about Rwanda's role in neighboring Congo. Does Rwanda risk losing international support as it flexes its regional muscle? President Paul Kagame, welcome to Hard Talk.
Thank you.
Let me begin with the global economic crisis. The perception is that it's affecting the rich world. Is it affecting Rwanda and Africa too?
Yes, it is affecting, and it will affect Rwanda and the other African countries and other developing countries, because Africa and Rwanda are not entirely disconnected from this rich world. There is a lot that goes on between the two parts of our world.
It's largely a credit crisis. Are you finding it is harder for your government and indeed for private sector business in Rwanda to get access to credit?
Yes, it's apparently a credit problem, but it is also a financial, and it has started becoming an economic problem generally. When you look at the declining global demand for what Africa and Rwanda produces, then you understand it is going to go beyond just credit to businesses, but certainly that is the beginning.
The IMF in recent days has said that it believes the poorest countries, most of them in Africa of course, are going to need up to $140 billion of extra help from the developed world. Given the problems in the developed world, do you think that is likely to be delivered?
I don't think it is likely to be delivered, because even with what was happening before, the developed world had promised to contribute to the development of the developing countries, and they have never met exactly the kind of target they had set for themselves.
You mean the G8 targets, for example, to double aid by 2010,
yes,
to make sure that at least 0.7% of national income was given to aid to the poorest countries?
Absolutely. So
you're saying those promises have not been kept?
Not at all. They hadn't met the targets. So I don't think it is at this time of crisis like this that they are going to be able to give or avail that amount of money. But it would be logical to for the developed countries to think of how, in the different stimulus packages and other efforts they are carrying out, to involve how much should be going to these developing countries, because in any case, keeping these economies alive and continuing to grow is also going to feed into their own economies, and therefore it is in their interest as well as for global interest.
You, as President of Rwanda, have come under a great deal of fire in the West of late, particularly for your strategy in neighboring Democratic Republic of Congo. Do you accept that you have been responsible for fighting, for financing military operations, for meddling in another country's affairs?
Well, I think there is some naivety or even total ignorance on the part of the West about what goes on in Africa, and particularly in my country. And sometimes they put things out of context. You can't on one hand be saying that Rwanda is developing, we are governing justly, there is, what to show for the efforts we have put into rebuilding our country and the kind of progress we have made. And at the same time, you come up with a whole list of other accusations and taking things totally out of context. Rwanda's situation and Africa's situation, or if you will, the Great Lakes region, has a history which has nothing to do with President Kagame or with Rwanda. It goes back many years. If you look at what has happened before, even, for example, the cause of the genocide, it goes back into the colonial days. It's not anything to do with what we did when we were, even the very fact that some of us were denied of our
nobody would
rights
dispute
has nothing
that Eastern Congo, which is really what we're talking about, is a deeply troubled region and has been for a long time. The question is, year on year, have you been helping or actually hindering efforts to bring stability to Eastern Congo? On December 12th of last year, the UN group of experts on the DRC accused you and your government of supplying military equipment to rebels fighting under the flag of Laurent Nkunda in Eastern Congo. They accused you of being complicit in recruiting soldiers, including child soldiers, and they provided evidence, a lot of evidence.
That's not true. I think the UN forces in the DRC have done more damage to the situation than anybody could do. They were the ones supplying arms to the genociders in the Congo and in exchange of minerals and money. Did they report about that? They cannot be the ones people should rely on to tell them anything. They've been there for years doing nothing. You see, this is the naivety I'm talking about. Wait a minute.
Don't respond to my charges with counter-charges. Can you address the specific charges of the UN group of experts?
I'm saying this is nonsense, because these are the things I'm saying are just nonsense.
But when you say nonsense, do you mean that you don't believe them when they say they have dozens of witnesses who, for example, describe how they were recruited? These are Rwandese people who were recruited inside Rwanda and taken to fight on behalf of Nkunda inside Eastern Congo.
Even if that were possible, how does it link with Kagame or with the government of Rwanda? It is possible. You have had people smuggled into Europe or out of Europe. It doesn't involve governments.
You, according to the group of experts, allowed your tanks and artillery to be deployed fighting on behalf of Nkunda, helping to hit the targets of the Hutu rebels inside Congo. How do you explain that?
Let me explain it and maybe cut the story short, because we are being dragged into some of the things that have been distorted and fabricated for many years. I think if we looked at where we are today, and that we have come to a point where we are working with the government of Congo to resolve the underlying issues and so on and so forth, I think we should all be happy with that and support that. If we dig deep into the history with all the lies and the fabrications there have been, we are probably bound to go beyond Rwanda and Congo and go to Europe and so on and so forth. But I think today, the fact is we have created an environment for peace. And the most important thing that had been lacking, we have put in place, and that is working together, the government of Rwanda and the government of DRC, to create an environment of peace and improve our relations and go about our usual businesses.
A final point then, because you keep calling it lies and fabrications. The UN also have documentary evidence that one of your advisors, Mr. Rujugiro, he has sent an email.
He's not my advisor, first of all. That's what they.
Well, he was described by the UN as your advisor. Are you denying
it doesn't
he was your
make
advisor?
it right.
Did you know him?
Very well. I know many Rwandese. I know him.
So when he sent an email to Dubai thanking people for arranging a payment of $120,000 for the soldiers of what he called our friend Laurent Nkunda.
It is possible that he could even have been giving him money.
Mr. President,
it has nothing to do with me. It has nothing to do with the government.
Close to you, providing hundreds of thousands of dollars to Laurent Nkunda, and you sit here and tell me that this is lies and fabrications?
No, I'm saying it is possible, and I don't care, and it has nothing to do with me.
You don't care? No, you're the president of Rwanda. You say you want stability in your neighbour, the Congo.
Yes.
And then you say you don't care if senior figures in Rwanda are providing hundreds of thousands of dollars of support to a rebel leader.
I don't care because even you yourself are putting things out of context. Why I'm saying that is that Laurent Nkunda himself should be seen in the context of what produced him to be there. So you see the danger here, you are just picking one small thing and staying on it and getting it out of its own context. The fact that Laurent Nkunda exists the fact that the